The steel doors of Training Complex Theta 9 hissed open, and Commander Hyal stepped through with the practiced confidence of someone who had faced down worse things than a room full of alien cadets. Her boots clicked against the polished floor as she surveyed the massive chamber, a space designed for beings twice her size. Silence fell like a hammer. 50 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Crithian warriors, each standing nearly 8 feet tall, their scaled hides glinting under the harsh lights. They were the elite, the pride of the Galactic Defense Coalition, bred for combat since birth, and they were staring at the human with undisguised contempt, all except 3. At the back of the formation, 3 younger Crithians, barely past their adolescent molt, suddenly broke ranks. Their instructor, a scarred veteran named Thexral, bellowed a command in their guttural language, but the cubs ignored him completely. They ran straight toward Hyal. The room erupted in shocked hisses. Running to an outsider, especially during formation, was an unforgivable breach of discipline. Thexral's crest flushed deep crimson with rage, his clawed hand reaching for his shock baton. But Hyal simply smiled. The first cub, a young male with copper-colored scales named Kivan, skidded to a halt before her, his tail thrashing with barely contained excitement. The other 2 flanked him, their eyes bright with something the older Crithians couldn't comprehend. Hope. Commander Hyal. Kivan's voice cracked with youth and emotion. You came back. You actually came back. Hyal knelt down, bringing herself to eye level with the young warriors. By human standards, they were still massive, but she'd learned long ago that size meant nothing when it came to connection. I told you I would, she said simply. Thexral stormed forward, his voice a thunderous roar. Cubs returned to formation immediately, or face what, instructor? Hale rose smoothly to her feet, her dark eyes meeting his without flinching. Punishment for showing loyalty, for remembering kindness? The room went deathly silent. No one spoke to Thexral like that. No one. These cubs, he spat the word like a curse, have dishonored themselves and their unit by abandoning their positions for a human. These cubs, Hyal countered, her voice carrying across the chamber, saved my life on Proxima 7. When my transport crashed in contested territory, when my distress beacon failed, when every logical tactical decision would have been to leave me to die, these 3 came for me. She placed her hand on Kivan's shoulder. The young Crithian straightened with pride. They tracked me through a blizzard. They fought off a Vex patrol. They carried me 15 kilometers through hostile terrain while wounded. Her gaze swept across the assembled warriors. They did what we're all supposed to do. They put their brothers in arms above protocol. Above fear, above species. Kivan's voice was soft but steady. She taught us that strength isn't just in our claws or our scales. She showed us that courage means protecting those who cannot protect themselves, even if they're different from us. One of the other cubs, a female with emerald green scales, added, "The humans have a saying, no one left behind. Commander Hyal lives by it. We wanted to learn how." Thexral's crest had faded from crimson to a confused orange. "Humans are weak, soft. You dishonor yourselves by—" "I've read your file, instructor," Hyal interrupted. Her tablet appeared in her hand as if by magic. "You've served for 40 cycles. Commendations for valor, tactical excellence, and here's an interesting note. You once held a defensive position for 3 days against overwhelming odds. When asked why you didn't retreat when tactical doctrine demanded it, you said, and I quote, 'My warriors were still fighting.' A commander does not abandon his pack." Thexral's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. "That's humanity's gift to this coalition," Hyal continued, her voice softer now. "Not our technology, not our tactics, our refusal to accept that any life is expendable, our stubborn, foolish human insistence that everyone matters." She turned to face the assembled cadets. "You've been taught that weakness is death. That emotion is a liability, that only the strong survive." Her hand remained on Kivan's shoulder, but these cubs learned something different. They learned that true strength is knowing when to fight, when to protect, and when to run headlong into danger for someone who can't run themselves. The silence that followed was different now. Contemplative. Kivan spoke up, his voice stronger. "We don't want to be like the old warriors anymore. We want to be like the humans. We want to be packed to everyone, not just our own kind." One of the older cadets, a battle-hardened warrior with scars crisscrossing his snout, took a step forward. "The human..." The commander speaks truth. I have fought beside humans. They are small, yes, weak in body perhaps, but they fight with something we have forgotten. And what is that? Thaxarel demanded. They fight like every life is their own cubs, like every fallen comrade is their clutchmate. The scarred warrior's crest shifted to a respectful blue. They taught me that pack is not just those who share your blood. It is those who share your purpose. Hayal watched as something shifted in the room. The contempt in the older warrior's eyes didn't vanish, but it softened, changed. Thexrel stared at her for a long moment, then at the three cubs. Finally, he straightened to attention. Cubs, return to formation. Kivan hesitated. Now, warriors, Thexrel added, and there was something new in his voice. We have much to learn from our human instructor today. The three young Crithians practically glowed as they returned to ranks, their heads held high. Hayal stepped to the center of the training floor. Today's lesson is about adaptive combat tactics. But first, let me tell you about a human concept called empathy. Because if you're going to fight beside humans, you need to understand what drives us. What makes us run into fires, dive into frozen rivers, and yes, what makes cubs abandon formation to greet someone who refused to leave them behind. As she began the lesson, she caught Kaivan's eye and smiled. He smiled back, a terrifying expression on a Crithian face, but she'd learned to read it. The galaxy was changing. One cub, one lesson, one human at a time, and Hayal wouldn't have it any other way.